Governance is managing common resources for everyone's benefit. And those resources can be materials, money, environment, relationships, and rules. So governance is just taking care of the things we share. Now, all the activities people commonly associate with government, making budgets, providing public services, formulating laws, really all boil down to this: stewarding common resources. Now, good governance is doing that well. And you can measure that by looking at people's quality of life. How well does the average citizen of a society live? How well do the citizens at the bottom of that society live? So good governance is managing shared resources for everyone's benefit and in everyone's best interest. It's improving life for everyone. Governance is something everyone should care about because it affects everyone's quality of life. It not only shapes the present, but it also shapes the future of the reality that we will have to live in. The risks, the burdens, and the responsibilities that will become a reality in the future. Everyone should be involved in governance because nobody else can understand your needs and your wishes better than you can. And nobody can be expected to care about your needs and wishes more than you do. So it's really irresponsible to leave it to someone else. Everyone has a part to play and everyone can participate in the way the society is governed. So, two longer-term aspirations for governance in Africa, I would say, are self-determination and cooperation. So self-determination is at all levels: local, national, regional, continental. And this means being able to actually control resources and actually shape the relationships we have with one another and with external parties. This means moving away from unequal trade relationships, from unequal power dynamics, and seeking to assert a homegrown vision of what we would like our future to be. By cooperation, again, I mean at several levels: local, national, regional, continental. Are we having conversations and discussions that are inclusive, that bring communities together to form a shared vision? Are we able to work together as different states to form a continental vision for Africa? And are we able to work together as individuals to form a shared vision for our communities, our cities, and our countries? So I see that as the future of good governance: self-determination and cooperation at all levels. So I think two basic principles for consideration of governance in Africa are responsibility and then methods and practices. So the question of responsibility arises in who office holders are accountable to. Who do they feel most responsible to? And if that's not the voters that put them in office, then that's a problem. Now, in most systems, there are many democratic systems across Africa where to actually hold office holders become more beholden to a president or a party or individual funders. And in those systems, there's actually a systematic issue to address. But where you don't have that systematic issue, I think it's on office holders and it's on citizens to reflect on where loyalties lie and whose interests are being served. If we could address that issue of responsibility, then we can then move on to the methods and techniques that we use to govern our societies. Are we using the best practices? Are we considering the best ways to get things done? But those questions of method don't arise until we solve the problem of responsibility. Now, there are exceptions across Africa of really well-managed systems and systems that are accountable to the public at large. But those shouldn't be exceptions, those should be the rule. So let's think about who are office holders responsible to, and then let's think about what are the best methods, techniques, and practices we can use to govern our society. So I see three ways that people can get more involved in governance. The first is to understand the systems of your society. Which agencies, offices, and officers have the responsibility for executing given functions and services. So I think we need to understand who they are, how to communicate with them, how to get out our voices and wishes across, and how to hold them accountable.
Secondly, I think people can get more involved by organizing. Voting is really the bare minimum of participation in a democratic system of governance. So what are ways that you can organize your community, those who have shared interests, shared goals, to execute projects and to make their voices heard at larger levels of policymaking? Thirdly, I think everyone needs to sit down and have a conversation, a serious reflective discussion about who are we as a society, what do we want as a society, and how do we get there? So I think those are the three levels of involvement. First, to understand the system. Secondly, to participate in the system. And thirdly, to help reimagine and reshape the system to one that is more inclusive and more reflective of people's science.